Alright, welcome back everybody. This is Millennium Decks. You're now listening to the Yugi brothers. I'm Nick.
And Phil.
And we are doing our first ever character deck profile. And what a way to start off with the king of games himself, Yugi Muto. Today we will be focusing on just his Battle City deck. In a part 2 video sometime this week, I'll also profile his Virtual World deck. But for now, this is the Battle City deck. And sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So we're back, and we're going to start off with the monsters, then the spells, then the traps. The deck profile recipe will be listed in the description below. So first off, you've got his Egyptian God card, obviously, that he won against Strings from Merrick, obviously. Slifer The Sky Dragon, obviously in Battle City, Yugi, Kaiba, and Merrick, they have each an Egyptian God card, and Yugi has Slifer. So this is his trump card. This is what he wants, and when we do a character deck duel, drawing this guy, getting him out on the field, it's amazing. The anime effects are pretty much the same, so he is pretty much a beast on the field. You gotta love Slifer. With this deck, he technically does use Obelisk the Tormentor, but the only way we would include this deck is if we did a Battle City Final special with Yugi versus Merrick and how he would have the Obelisk. So that's his God card. Next up, the first new monster that he summoned in this season, Gazelle, the king of mythical beasts. A personal favorite of mine. This guy, 1,500 attack points for a character deck is pretty average. Obviously, this is not competitive play, but getting him off with the combo.
It's just a classic monster. I mean, he was always like one of my favorite monsters, like back in the day.
Yeah, and he, in Battle City, he always seemed to get this guy out, as well as with the Magna Warriors. And the next monster to go with Gazelle is Beformet. Now, Beformet is better if you draw him first because you can search out Gazelle. Then you can get the Polymerization and due to Chimera's effect, which we'll get to the extra deck. But yeah, the combo with both of them just always goes well. Next up, we have Alpha, Beta, Gamma, the Magna Warriors. This was probably my favorite of the trios that he ran in Battle City. Alpha was debuted against Seeker, and then you had Beta who debuted against Arcana, and Gamma, I believe, debuted against Strings. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's about right. So this is the trio that he runs here. It was pretty cool to see. I remember when I was a little kid watching the series and these guys first got out onto the playing field, and I just wanted them so bad.
Like it was something different at the time because we were used to seeing, Yugi had like spellcasters and all these like dark attribute monsters, and then like the Magnet Warriors came out. Like I remember seeing Alpha against the duel against the Seeker, the guy, that guy with Exodia. And I was like, oh, well, what's this? And then, like, when we saw the other two, it was just, like, it became, like, a big favorite of ours.
Yeah, it's just a personal favorite. So all three of them are really, really good. And obviously, if you get all three of them, you summon the big man. Valkyrion, the Magna Warrior. When he summoned this, I think all three were played against the Masked brothers, Loomis and Umbra. And, it's neat to see how they transitioned because every duel that he fought, one debuted and another never showed up. And then after all three of them were debuted, they combined them all into the one duel, which is probably my favorite duel in the series against the Loomis and Umbra when he tag teamed with Kaiba. But I mean, when you saw this thing, it was just awesome and a really, really good card.
Just a very powerful monster. And just one thing to add, this is just for some of the newer players to the game, is to make sure to read card text correctly, because for the longest time, I always thought that you had to have Alpha, Beta, and Gamma in order to summon, but you can actually tribute summon him, but he can, if you want to special summon him, it must be with those three. So that's just some advice for some of the newer players out there, just be sure, check runes for all cards and, just read card text carefully. I just wanted to point that out there.
Absolutely. And about effects and everything like that, Valkyrion is not errated at all. It's still with the anime and the real life effect. Next up, just what is there to say about Summon Skull? It's just a beast. This is probably the best normal one sacrifice monster. He only used it against Seeker, but it's in the Battle City deck. Just getting him out, especially in a character deck duel where it's all about pretty much attack points and trying to get combos out later. This is just a really good card to draw off the bat. It was nice to see him used in this series, so what a beast.
Probably my favorite fiend ever.
You can't have a Yugi deck without this guy, the Dark Magician. His favorite monster. The one thing about Dark Magician, you started to see the combos come together in this series of Battle City. So Dark Magician, you know, it's not a Yugi deck without it. And debuting, the one and only Dark Magician Girl. Now, it was interesting that they point this out, and the way that how they debuted it in the anime, I liked it a lot, was against another Dark Magician duelist at Arcana, and he said, "Oh, I didn't know Dark Magician Girl existed." Anyway, we're back. Our camera got cut out, but yeah, Dark Magician Girl, Yugi also uses in this season, and it was nice to see a girl Dark Magician being introduced in this season. So it goes well, especially with its ability if you have Dark Magician in the graveyard. Next, probably my personal favorite of his newer monsters, Buster Blader. Thing that you really like about Buster Blader, just the fact that one, the fusion combination with Dark Magician is awesome, but especially in character decks, if we do a Yugi versus Kaiba duel, he has the edge against Kaiba, especially with this card. And he's just an awesome looking monster. Yeah, with 2,600 attack points, he's a step better than Dark Magician as far as attacking is concerned, and it gives Yugi more support for attack. Next up, another personal favorite of his newer monsters, the Big Shield Gardna. Now, when this was debuted, I believe it was against Arcana. The thing that I just always loved was the 2,600 defense. Just so good, especially for character deck duels. It's nice to play and start out with it, actually throw it in a face down. The only downside with this card is its ability, because if it does get attacked, it has to switch into attack mode. So, but other than that, it's a great wall, and especially if in a character deck duel, when we're using Yugi's deck and he's not able to summon any more monsters, you get to stall a little bit with this guy. Another awesome looking card is Archfiend of Gilfer, but in the anime it was known as Beast of Gilfer. Now, this is a really cool card. Was used against Loomis and Umbra. When it was sent to the graveyard, it possessed, I think it was the Masked Beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Masked Beast it possessed. This is just another guy who's one tribute and with a special ability, especially in character decks. Just an awesome looking card, and it was nice to see Yugi have it in his deck. So, bringing it way back now to Duelist Kingdom Classic monsters, the Feral Imp. I'm not sure when, but in the deck list, it is listed that he did use it. If someone can refresh my memory, but Feral Imp is in this deck. The cutest little furball you've ever seen, Kuriboh. Especially with Multiply. Multiply for the anime effect. We haven't decided yet if we want to eradicate it. One, I don't have a million Kuriboh cards. But the second thing would be, I don't know how I feel about it, you know, just making it an unstoppable life point wall unless I sacrifice it. So we'll just keep Multiply with the regular effect. This next card, Electromagnetic Turtle.
About time they released this a while ago.
Oh, I remember I was making this deck about a year and a half ago, and I had an Orca version of this card. I just wanted it so bad. Then I found out that it was released, and I was so happy. It's nice to see Konami actually release a card like this. This was used in the battle against Seto Kaiba with the Battle City semifinals. Just an awesome, awesome card. Next, we'll go with the trios. King, Queen, and Jax Knight. This is the other trio that he runs in this deck. You really want to have King's Knight or Queen's Knight. If you draw Jax Knight, it's not that good. You don't want to draw him. When King's Knight and Queen's Knight are on the field, you can get out Jax Knight. The purpose of this combination is pretty obvious, getting out Slifer. It helps a lot, and in character decks, this combination can be possible. So that's it for the monsters that he used in Battle City. We're going to move on to the spell. Polymerization. This is an anime character deck, so I had to go out, get the anime version, which is just amazing looking. In the anime, he called it Curse Breaker, which was so random, but hey. Dispel. So he used this against Arcana, you know, destroys a spell card on the field. Change of Heart. This was used against Kaiba. Really good for character decks, especially tributing for like Summon Skull or Beast of Gilfer.
Change of Heart steals games.
Oh, yes, it does. Diffusion. You know, you can get rid of somebody's Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, Kaiba. So that it's always helpful. Or you can defuse one of his 2 fusion material monsters. Magic Formula. Now this is a little bit controversial. We included 1. It says in the deck list that he has 2, but for the character deck purpose, I'm only going to include 1. The reason there's 2, my assumption is because of Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. I don't ever remember him having 2 specifically in a duel, but for now we have 1. If we update it to 2, we will let you guys know ahead of time when we duel with this deck. But a really good card, especially when it's destroyed, you get 1,000. Card of Sanctity. This pretty much became everybody's card in Battle City and then throughout. We have decided to make it the anime effect,
Oh my goodness.
which makes the duels just so much more enjoyable, getting rid of your whole hand and drawing until you have 5 cards. So everybody who has a Card of Sanctity, we're going to follow the anime errata effect to it. Monster Reborn, you guys know.
Another game changer right there.
Exchange. This is a card that he's used many times, but this was the one card that really helped him against, who was it?
Exchange. From the virtual world, I think. Was it virtual
Well, he does, no, he doesn't have it in that, but Exchange. I'm trying to remember, was it? Oh, Kaiba. He uses it against Kaiba, and it was even more effective because Kaiba had that Spell Sanctuary card out, which made this a quick play card, which was awesome. So it helped him get, you know, the combination he was trying to do for Obelisk at that point. Pot of Greed. Multiply to go with your Kuriboh. We already mentioned that we won't be using the anime effect for now. Subject to change, but we'll just use the regular effect. Magical Dimension. Again, his Battle City deck is focused more on Slifer and the spellcasters, and with Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl, this can go really well. So an overall great card. Brain Control. He uses this against Arcana to take control of Legion, the Fiend Jester, so he can summon his own Dark Magician.
Yet another game changer.
It is a game, especially in character decks. Mystic Box. This is a card that was debuted actually in Duelist Kingdom, but he still used it during this season, and it's always nice to see these old school cards coming back to life in these decks. Swords of Revealing Light, a classic Yugi card, also debuted in Duelist Kingdom.
Great for stalling.
Card Destruction. When he used this was against Arcana, where he says, "Time for us to discard our hands, Arcana," because Arcana probably cheated with the cutting of the Dark Magicians or whatnot. Double Spell. I really enjoy the artwork of this card a lot. Double Spell, you take 2 spell cards in your hand to discard, and then you take a spell card. Actually, it's one spell card. I'm thinking of spell reproduction, but you take one spell card, get rid of it from your hand, and then take your opponent's spell. So it could be good, especially for extra Monster Reborns in character decks. Mystical Space Typhoon. Diffusion Wave Motion. This was the first season where it debuted. Just a really good card. You can attack all the monsters on the field. I've never had the chance, actually, when we've been using these decks, to actually pull that combo off, but he still used it. And your last spell, Soul Taker. Now with Soul Taker, it's a good card, but obviously the opponent would gain 1,000 points. Yugi does use it, so it's in the deck. So that's it for the spells. Now time for the traps. So first, the Light of Intervention. He uses this because he doesn't know what Seeker was planning at the time, had no idea, so he wanted to play it safe with his face downs to see what was hiding. Then he used the Light Force Sword. This is a really annoying card because if you use it and you don't get something good from somebody's hand, you're probably going to be like, great, it was a waste. But you could do something good like Exodia Pieces and pierce it. So that's why it's there. Time Seal, a really good card. This is also how he had to beat the Exodia deck. The opponent skips his draw phase. And Chain Destruction. The artwork of this card is also pretty good. When we go into character decks, not only is this card good for Exodia Pieces, but there's a lot of side characters that run triplets of a few cards, maybe even duplicates. So it's nice to see this card actually being played in the Yugi deck. And you never know when it can come in handy, and that's what Yugi's about, is, you know, finding a way out of everything.
Pharaoh Servant was such a great old school set.
It absolutely was.
Time Seal was a common. Like, are you kidding me?
7 Tools of the Bandit. He uses this in the 4-way duel. I forgot who he used. It was either Kaiba or Merrick, but he did use this. Another great card. Collected Power, also a nice card, especially when you go against a character deck that uses equip cards. There's not very much, which makes it a little bit situational, so you never know when this could come in handy. Shift. I'm not entirely sure when this was. It was actually shown in his hand in one of the duels. He never actually played it, but it was in his hand. And this is one of the things that we decided to clarify on, is that there's the one part where he goes into the card shop where he's thinking about cards to rebuild his deck. And those were shown in the rebuilding process. I believe it was Giant Soldier of Stone, Graceful Charity, Magic Jammer, and Cyber Jar, and some other cards. But he never even played those, so we're not going to add those in. But this was actually shown in his hand, and it wasn't one of those filler cards like when Arcana had like a Metal Zoa in his hand. Like it was like, you know, he used it before, so we put it in the deck. You gotta love this, how they released this card. It's about time. Dark Renewal, first used by Arcana, but then Yugi gets it. He first used it in the Virtual World, which we will also deck profiling his Virtual World deck. The Dark Renewal using in the Battle City semifinals against Kaiba. It's just a great card. Thank you so much for you know, releasing it, because it's awesome artwork, and with Dark Magician you can't go wrong. Magical Hats, obviously another classic Duelist Kingdom card. This one's a really good one though. Soul Rope. So he uses this in this series. Nice looking card. You get to special summon a level 4 when one of the monsters is destroyed. You never know when it could come in handy in character decks. Dust Tornado. Now, with Yugi's deck, he's got an MST and a Dust Tornado, so he's got some spell and trap removal, which is pretty nice. It's another thing where you'll see some of the side characters get up-profiled, and you'll notice that we've decided that we might put in some MSTs and Dust Tornadoes for them as well, but Yugi actually did use this card. The Spellbinding Circle, another Duelist Kingdom classic card. Can't go wrong. Regulation of Tribe. Only downside with this is if you want to keep it in effect, you gotta pay 1,000, but This is pretty much like a one-turn negate attack. That's what he used pretty much in the 4-way duel. He stops Kaiba's Vorse Raider from attacking, and then he chooses Beast Warrior types. But then his next phase, he just got rid of the card, so pretty awesome card for like one turn. Magic Cylinder, just an overall great looking card. Nothing more you have to say there. And his last trap, the Mystical Wrath panel. He uses this against Arcana. Just a pretty interesting card. It's kind of very hard to determine when it's going to happen because it kind of switches. Like for example, if I had a Dark Magician out, somebody had like a Gazelle, and then they used Fissure. Well, then you use that, and then Fissure destroys Gazelle. So it's like you take a spell card, and then you apply that effect to the opponent who used it. But it's only if it targets one of your monsters. So it's not a bad card. So that does it for the monsters, spells, and traps. And now we're going to the extra deck. First fusion he summons right off the bat in Battle City with a bang. Chimera, the flying mythical beast. Really cool looking monster that he uses. One of the easier fusions to summon in this deck because you can search out Gazelle if you get Beformet. And it's not a bad card to start out with, and pretty much if you look at the duels where he uses the monsters, he pretty much, starts off with this fusion early on. It's never like later on, so it's a good fusion to get earlier on. But the ultimate beast, other than Slifer, this guy right here, the Dark Paladin. Flat out, he's just an awesome looking card.
That's probably my favorite card in Yugi's deck. Like out of all like the seasons,
he's just a tank. The fact that they decided to make a fusion of Dark Magician and Buster Blader, just flat out awesome.
It's just so rewarding when you finally get him onto the field. Like it's awesome. I mean,
it's one of the harder fusions to pull off, but it has been done, especially in character decks. So that does it for Yugi's deck. One quick note that I just forgot to mention. I'm still waiting on an Exile of the Wicked. For now, I decided not to profile it only because of the fact that it's a pretty random card.
It's very situational.
Very situational. I mean, the only time it probably would come in handy is if you kind of go against Bakura, because I mean he does use the Fiends, but that's the only, or Merrick. So, but we'll let you know, and the deck profile will be listed in the description link below this video. I just want to thank everybody who tuned into this video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe. Of course, like this video. There will be an updated video about current projects that will also be introduced. Once again, we appreciate it. This is Nick.
And Phil.
And we are the Millennium Decks, also known as the Yugi Brothers. Thank you guys.